Have you ever been just, going about your day and found a strange kind of soft lump under your skin? Well, you are definitely not alone. So today we're going to break down exactly what these things are, look at the latest ways to get rid of them, and tackle why getting your insurance to cover it can be a real battle.
It's a super common experience. You're just minding your own business, maybe you scratch an itch on your arm or your back, and then you feel it. This little, soft, movable bump that you swear wasn't there yesterday. And your first thought is probably a mix of, what's that? And a little bit of worry.
If that sounds familiar, trust me, you're in good company. But finding one of these things kicks up a ton of questions, right? Like, is this dangerous? Is it just going to go away on its own? And if I want it gone, what do I even do? So let's get you some answers.
Okay, first things first. Let's get to the bottom of what this lump actually is. Getting a proper diagnosis, that is the absolute critical first step. It changes everything that comes after. So in most cases, that little lump is what doctors call a lipoma. Now, don't let the word tumor scare you. It's benign, which just means non-cancerous. Think of it as a little self-contained collection of fat cells, all bundled up. They usually feel soft, you can kind of move them around a bit, they grow super slowly, and for most people, they're completely painless.
But, while a single painless lipoma is usually no big deal, for some people, it is a completely different story. There's a rare condition called Derkham's disease, and it causes not just one, but multiple lipomas that are chronically, and I mean severely painful. We're talking a level of pain here that can be truly disabling.
And just to give you an idea of the scale here, this is not some minor issue. The global market for treating Derkham's disease was valued at over $11 billion back in 2021. That number, it just goes to show how big of a problem this is and how badly we need effective treatments for folks suffering from these painful conditions.
And that right there brings us to probably the biggest hurdle for so many patients, even the ones in serious pain. Trying to convince your insurance company that getting a lipoma removed is a medical necessity and not just, a cosmetic choice. And here it is, the heart of the problem, and this is pulled right from an actual insurance policy. Insurers draw a really hard line. Basically, if that lump on your skin doesn't pose a direct threat to your health, they're going to call it cosmetic. And you know what that means? You're probably paying for it out of pocket.
So what's the bottom line? You and your doctor have to prove that this lipoma is, in their words, a threat to health or function. It's got to tick some very specific boxes to get that all-important medically necessary stamp of approval. So what exactly are those boxes you have to tick? Well, according to the policies, you need to have documented proof of things like intense itching, a burning sensation, constant irritation, or just straight-up pain and tenderness. Other things that count are if it keeps bleeding, if it's blocking something, or, and this is a big one, if there's any suspicion that it might be malignant, meaning it's changing in size, shape, or color. Without that paper trail, getting coverage is an uphill battle for sure.
And that's the million-dollar question every single patient has to figure out, isn't it? It's not enough to just want it gone. You have to build a solid case with medical records showing that this thing is causing you a real, documented problem. So, let's say you do that. What happens then? What are your options? All right, so let's imagine you've gotten the green light from insurance, or maybe you've just decided to pay for it yourself. What's on the menu for treatment? Well, as you're about to see, getting rid of fat has gotten pretty high-tech. Okay, let's break these down. First step, you've got your traditional suction-assisted liposuction, or SAL. That's the old standby. Then you get into the newer stuff like laser-assisted and ultrasound-assisted lipo. And man, do they make some big claims. Tighter skin, less pain, you name it. But when you actually dig into the scientific research, well, the evidence isn't quite as clear-cut as the brochures might make it seem. And here is where it gets really interesting. This is the big takeaway from a major clinical trial. After all the hype about these fancy new technologies, when scientists put laser lipo head-to-head against the traditional method, they found no major clinical differences. No significant difference in the final outcome. Kind of surprising, right?
And it gets even murkier from there. A big review that looked at a whole bunch of studies on this topic came to a pretty frustrating conclusion. A lot of the research that seems to favor the newer, more expensive techniques has what they call a high risk of bias. And that basically means the findings might not be all that reliable. So which technique is best? The real answer might be, we're not totally sure.
But what if you could just skip surgery altogether? I mean, really, some of the most exciting stuff happening right now is in the world of non-surgical treatments. Let's take a peek at what the future might hold.
All right, let me introduce you to something called CBL-514. This could be a total game changer. It's an injectable drug that's currently being developed, and it works by targeting fat cells and triggering something called apoptosis. That's just a fancy science term for programmed cell death. So, in simple terms, you get an injection, and the lipoma basically gets the signal to shrink and disappear all on its own. No surgery required.
So, the big question, does it work? Let's fly through some of the data from a recent clinical trial. In that study, almost 65% of the lipomas that were treated shrank by more than half. That's a huge reduction.
And get this, even more impressive, nearly 39% of the painful lipomas were completely zapped, totally gone.
And for the patients in that study, that meant a whole lot of pain relief. On average, their pain scores dropped by 4.7 points on a 10-point scale. I mean, that is absolutely life-changing.
Now, before you get too excited and rush to call your doctor, hold on. This is still in the trial phase. A really important study just started recruiting in August of 2024, and we're not expecting to see results until late 2025. But still, this is definitely one to watch.
So, okay, we've covered a lot. Confusing insurance policies, conflicting data on which surgery is best, exciting new tech on the horizon. With all of that swirling around, how in the world do you make the right choice for you?
Here's a simple little action plan. Step 1. Go see a professional and get a clear, confirmed diagnosis. Step 2. Document everything. Keep a detailed log of every symptom, every time it hurts, itches, or bothers you. Step 3. When you talk about treatments with your doctor, discuss all the options and don't be afraid to ask about the evidence. And finally, Step 4. Get a copy of your insurance policy and actually read the fine print. Know what they require.
And all this kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. As science keeps giving us these amazing, less invasive, more effective treatments, is the real challenge going to shift? It's entirely possible that in the future, the biggest hurdle won't be the medical procedure itself, but winning the paper-pushing battle to prove your pain is real and that your treatment is, in fact, necessary. Thanks for tuning in.